Hey everybody, Chris Stegall here with MK Partners, joined once again by Matt Kaufman. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
And we are back with another installment of our weekly Q&A with Matt K, the unedited, unscripted Salesforce troubleshooting challenge, essentially, where we present Matt with a question from the community, the comments, or from our customers and clients. And Matt does his best to answer it live, work through the issue, the solution, so you can get some insight into how Salesforce troubleshooting works, how the community goes about solving problems, and take some of the mystique and mystery away from the things that go on behind the curtain. So
Yeah,
thank you, Matt.
I think you phrased that well. I do my best. The most important thing is to give it a try.
Yeah. And one day I will stump you. And
I'm sure you
there will
will.
be a day we have to rename the series, but it will be exciting when it happens.
Yeah. Q&A with the parentheses around the A.
Q and maybe.
Yeah.
All right, and today's question comes from the Trailblazer community. I'm going to throw it on the screen here. It is related to formula fields, and it comes from Dayananda SM, who was at IBM, asking
Oh,
about a formula field in an order object. Matt, can you read that, or do I need to make it larger?
I can read it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Did you want me to read it out loud?
Oh,
Or
I figured sort of you were a good,
yeah, if
test
I
case.
can
If
read
you
it,
can read it, the audience can read it if I
yeah,
need to
exactly.
zoom in.
Yeah.
Um,
I got my glasses on and I might lean in a little, but I can definitely read it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, if you want to read it, that's great.
Sure. Okay, so she says hello to admin Trailblazers, and she says she has a formula field, days in fulfillment queue, which calculate the count of the days from a field minus today. This is on the order object. I probably should have started with that. So this is a field on the order object. I'm assuming it's a standard order object. And then she gives the formula. I'm not going to read that out loud because that is not going to be fun to read. But it's basically trying to calculate time between different days. And then at the bottom, she gets to the meat of it. She says, so I want to add on more conditions to this formula. If the status field is equal to shipped, it should stop the calculation stop calculating the days in fulfillment queue field. Okay, so there's a field called days in fulfillment queue. And so if we think about it, so she wants to count the number of days that something was in this queue, this fulfillment queue. That's what we're doing here. It's on the order object, which is great because I probably have not touched the order object in my org. And she'd like some help. I'm going to need to copy that formula. So if you could provide me with the link to it, I would
Yeah, let
greatly
me
appreciate that. And
send it over to
then
you.
while you're sending me that link, thank you. I'll go ahead and pull it over. I can start sharing my screen if you want to present my screen. I actually
Sure.
have it up now, so that's there we go. Now we're presenting my screen. There's my mouse. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first copy the name of this field. So date assigned to fulfillment. We need a field for that on the order object. And I'm going to come here, and this is my playground for Trailhead. Orders is enabled, so that's great. So I don't need to enable it already. And I'm going to go to the order object here on setup. And the first thing I'm going to have to do is start to create these fields that she already has. And I don't have these fields. You can see there. I'm going to create a new field. It's going to be a date field. I don't know in her org. Maybe it's a formula field. Maybe it's populated with something. I don't know, but we'll assume that it's a date field that's filled in through some mechanism. And let me just make it look a little nicer by taking away the underscores. Okay, and we'll add to the page layout, and then we'll start creating this formula field. I'll also create a record on the orders tab so we can start playing with orders, checking out the formula. I especially find that if you really want to test out a formula, you have to use a record. You can't just play with the formula editor. And we're going to make some changes to the order page layout before I can create a record, just to simplify this process. So let's come here and not make this required. It's a page layout requirement, not a database requirement. So that's good. This one, okay. Here's our field that I just added. I'm going to go ahead and take away some of these other fields that we're not going to need, just to make it easier to fill out the form. Okay, so hit save. And let's go ahead, I guess, while we're here, we'll create this formula that she talked about. So it was called Days in Fulfillment Queue. Days in Fulfillment Queue. And it is a formula field, and it's going to be a number, calculating the number of days. So let's put that in there, number. And I'm just going to take her, oh, you know what? We probably didn't need any fractions. You know what? Let's keep the decimals just to be safe for now. And I'll move it. So here's her existing one. And let's see, did that work? No. Well, that's interesting. How did it save for her? Huh. How did she get it to save if it's not saving for me? Date value. I wonder if this was not a date in her org. What if that date was being filled in by something? And that's why she had to use the date value. Let's go ahead and look at what the date value creates a date from its date time or text representation. Oh, maybe it was a date time. Okay, I want to respect the question and try to come up with as close of an answer as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and change that field to a date time. And that way, for sure, whatever solution, if we come up with a solution that I can come up with today, it will work, and it won't only work for date fields. It'll work for date time fields too. So let's do that. So I just changed that field that I created a minute ago to a date time field. And now if we check this, it worked. Okay. And I'm going to hit next and next and save. And I'm going to get ready to start working on it. So I'm just going to come back here, have that open. And I'm going to come now create my new order. Hopefully I have an account in here already. Let's see. Yeah, I do. Perfect. I thought I made this not required. Let's refresh the page. Everyone saw me do. I did it on video.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, so here's a little trick we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and switch to compact mode. It's possible that I have multiple page layouts and I didn't change the one that's assigned to me. No, that fixed it. So changing it from comfy to compact forces a refresh of all the things that are cached in the Lightning user interface. And so that's why that worked. Let's go ahead and put in date assigned to fulfillment. I like doing easy dates, right? The first of the month is always going to be easier than a date in the middle. And let's check this out. Okay, so 17 is what she has, which is weird because January 1st is definitely not 17 days ago. But let's check out her formula because I actually didn't look at it. I copy and pasted it without really looking. And maybe we can figure out what's going on here to make that 17. Okay, and this is probably some business logic, so maybe that's why 17 is important. So we have this minus this. I think she's taking out weekends. So
it's business days.
I think it's business day. So today is January 24th. I'll give away when we're making this video. And if we were to count the number of days between January 24th and January 1st without weekends, the first in 2024 was on a Monday.
17 and then 18 to today, but so it's between 17 and 18.
Got it. Okay. And so that's what I think the second part here is. It's counting how many weekends are in that time period and subtracting from the true number of days between. So that's awesome that she did that formula, because that is something that we often see people needing. Like, okay, we have a SLA that we have to meet, and so we need to count the number of business days. So really great on her for figuring that one out. Let's go back to the question and figure out what she's saying. So she wants that if the status field is equal to shipped, it should stop the calculation. Okay, so I've done this question before. I've had this question before. Dealing with cases to see how long has a case been in a certain status, or in the opportunities to actually see how long something is in a certain stage. In order to do math between two dates, those two dates need to be recorded in Salesforce, right? It's kind of obvious, right? Right now, she has two dates, one being date assigned to fulfillment and one being today. However, she's saying once the status is equal to shipped, it shouldn't use today. It should use a date that right now I don't see in this formula, which would be the date shipped.
That's what I was thinking too, but I feel like the last sentence there to me almost reads like the formula works, and then if the field is shipped, then we return 0. So we don't
Oh,
even need
you're
to
right.
do
I
any additional
didn't go that
calculation.
far.
We just
Okay.
wrap it in an if statement.
Okay, exactly. Then you are correct, and I won't say you stumped me, but you definitely solved that one before I did. I'll give you credit on that. So what we're going to do then is just put an if statement. She really wants to say 0, so we're going to say if, and then we'll insert status, and we'll say equals, and then shipped. We're just going to put 0, and otherwise it's going to be this. Now this is to me a little surprising.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to knock her. I mean, if she was able to come up with this amazing formula here, I'm not sure why she didn't get this extra step, unless of course there is more to it. Oh, or maybe because of this. Okay, it's a pick list. Yeah. So for pick list, we have a couple options. We could do text. We could also do is pick val. I'll do the text one first. That one worked. I don't really like the text one that much, so I'll do is pick val and comma that. There we go. And we'll check that one. And that worked too. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit save, and we'll check this out. Okay, so it's 17 right now. And we're going to change the status to, oh, we don't have a status of shipped. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm just going to leave it as drafted now. I'll just make it a little easier. And we'll come back here. And now one more time, I need to do that hard refresh. So what I'm going to do is actually switch it to comfy. We're going to do that refresh. And I will change the status to shipped. And let's see what happens. There it goes, 0. Seemed pretty easy. If that truly is what she wanted. If order status is not equal to shipped. Oh, not equal to shipped. Then return the count. Else 0. Okay, so if it's not shipped, return the count. If it is shipped, return 0. So we are doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like someone actually answered the question earlier today. And they did the same thing. That's hilarious. Well, it was still a good use of our time to go through the motions of coming up with a solution. So the other solution that I was talking about is if we didn't want 0, we actually wanted to lock in place the 17, which is something that we've gotten a lot of questions about in the past. What we would do is create a new field called, let's do date shipped. And we'd have to come up with a way to populate that field. We're not going to get into that today. But then we edit our field here. Where is it? Days in fulfillment queue. And instead of having, make it 0, we would now have to do this whole formula again. But instead of using today, we would use the date shipped. Date shipped. And I'm sure there's more than one way to do this. Okay, I don't see the word today anywhere else, so that looks good. The other thing that I was going to say is instead of doing is pick val in this case, it may make more sense to say, well, let's make sure date shipped is filled in. So we would do is blank, date shipped, and in this, unfortunately, I have to do not because the order that I did it in, but that's okay. Uh-oh, extra comma somewhere. Well, I'm sure our viewers at home are saying, oh, I see it. I think it's right there. Just trust me on it. I think that's it. Yeah, that
Nice.
worked. Okay. I kept track of what I copied and pasted. Okay, and so now what we'll do is we'll hit edit on here, and we're gonna fill in date shipped with today. Sorry, with today, and hit save. Oh, that's not going to work because it's still going to be 17. I now need to demonstrate it not being 17. Let's pretend that it was shipped not today, but a couple days ago or something like that. So let's let's refresh this to get the date shipped on the screen. There it is. Okay. Oh, interesting. Huh. Let's make it the 23rd. So it should be one day less. So it should be 16. What is going on there? Why is I'm definitely filling in this field, right? I filled it in.
Yeah.
I'm hitting save, and it's not there. Let's okay. Let me quickly do some debugging. So the first thing I'm going to do whenever I have an issue like this is go to session settings. And again, we don't do this in production. Typically, we do this in orgs like this that are for testing. And we're going to turn off the secure and persistent browser caching. That should make sure that I am seeing the latest of stuff when I come to a screen like this. And then I'm getting frustrated with having to constantly click over to details. So I'm just going to fix that. Let's do that too. I should have done it to begin with. It would have made the video go faster. But we're doing this on the fly. So there was no prep work for this. So we're going to come here and change details to go there and details to go there and hit save. And then we'll activate this for all of our org. That'll make it a little faster. And then I'm going to clear the cache one more time by switching to comfy. And we will try this again. Oh, that's interesting. It's still going to the details. Oh, weird. Okay, date shipped. 16. Save. Okay, that's there. Okay, perfect. Now it's saying 11 though. Oh yeah, that's right. Today's the 24th. I meant to say the 23rd. Sorry. There you go. Okay, it is working. And so this should be 15. And now if we skip the weekend, right, it should be 14. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Okay.
And so then it would be up to this admin to come up with a way to populate date ship. Typically, we're going to do sort of a flow that's going to populate it based on the status changing, or you fill this in and then the status changes, something like that. And that way it's not a human that's going to have to fill in the date shipped. But that's how we would lock it in time, which I think is a lot more useful to calculate the days in fulfillment and be able to report on it months later, years later, and do this type of retrospective looking back. How could we have been more efficient? How could we have reduced the number of days in the fulfillment queue? You're going to need to have that number there if you want to be able to do that. So that's what I would recommend rather than just 0. 0 is great if it's not in fulfillment yet. But once we've gone through fulfillment, we want to keep track of how long it stayed in there. And so I would do something like this.
Yeah, and I think that's how we were both approaching it initially. That's why I was so surprised when I saw that last sentence, and I was like, oh. So my theory is that perhaps they have a report on, current orders in the delivery queue sorted by longest, and once something ships, they don't care anymore how long it took.
Right.
They're just looking for what the slowest moving order is.
Yes. Yeah, they probably have to meet some type of requirement. Okay, we got to get everything out within a certain amount of time, like the drive-through. They want everyone to go through quickly, and so they need that number there. But they're not at the point where they have to actually work on shaving off some time. They just want to make sure that if they're behind, that they know it for staffing purposes or whatever it may be. But yeah, this is a great formula here. It definitely looks complex. It would have taken me a lot longer to come up with this formula than to just add the date shipped, to it. Technically, we could refactor this. I don't actually know if it would be more efficient or not. But instead of putting the if statement at the top and repeating this formula twice, we could have put the if statement every time we have the date field. So 1, 2 times we would have it, which actually is not that many. So we could, take this here and put it right there. I don't know, behind the scenes if that's more efficient or not. And I don't even know if we have a way to determine if it's more efficient. That's the kind of thing you might have to ask someone who works at Salesforce and get to the right person there. Does the formula, does an if statement in a formula make something, I don't know, take up more server CPU or whatever it may be? I'm thinking that if the if statements around the calculation here, we're going to do one or the other. And so we're not running this formula twice. So maybe that's efficient. Whereas if we put the if statement inside, technically we're doing the if calculation twice. We're doing it once here and once here. And so maybe that's less efficient, but I actually don't know. And I don't even know if there's anyone that could really tell us. It would be interesting to find out, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for walking us through that. Also, if you are on the Trailblazer help community, don't be surprised if you see me post what's a good formula to get just business days between two dates,
Yeah.
and then provide an answer. Um, yeah, I feel like we got a couple good clips out of this video that will answer multiple questions. So
Right.
that's another one of those fun things about working in Salesforce is solving one problem. You expose yourself to other things that are going to come in handy down the road, because I am fairly certain at some point I would have run into an issue where I said, I wish I could calculate business days. And now I know that formula exists. So,
Yeah. And actually, it would be interesting to do like a recap of this particular video where we time how much time did I waste because I didn't uncheck that checkbox in the session settings? And how much time did I waste because I didn't make the details tab the first tab? Because the lesson there is basically if you're going to do some work, take the time up front to set things up properly, and then it'll go faster.
yeah.
But we're doing this ad hoc, and so I was trying to jump right into the formula instead of taking the time to really set up this environment, this playground, to kind of make sure that we do this as quickly as possible.
Yeah. It also felt a little bit like one of those like school assignments where it's testing if you read all of the instructions,
Right.
because
And the last page says, "Don't do
yeah,
anything." Yeah.
only write your name and turn the paper and sit
Yeah.
quietly until the teacher tells you to turn them in.
Yeah.
Um, but does also illustrate the importance of getting a clear understanding of the expectations from your users when they report an
Right.
issue. Because if somebody says, once the status is shipped, we should stop the calculation, to you and I, that means, okay, we calculate everything up until that date and then return that calculated value. But the additional question is, okay, well, what do you want it to say if shipped? And the answer is 0. That
Yeah.
makes it a lot simpler question. It's just,
Yeah. Although I would then have to ask, well, what if we're not shipped yet? Like we're not in fulfillment and we're not shipped. Is that 0 or is that blank or is it like words and not a number, which would change the formula type, things like that.
yeah,
And that could lead to all sorts of other questions. So
that's true. Yeah. If there's
um,
a status beyond shipped, like returned, and
yeah,
I change it to returned, and all of a sudden my time in
right.
fulfillment shoots up to 3 months, and someone says, that package is in the warehouse, we got to ship it. And we go, no, it was shipped. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes. These are all things that we deal with, not just on orders, but cases, opportunities, all sorts of stuff. So
Yeah.
this applies to people who are doing things even outside of the order object.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you once again, Matt, for walking us through that.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
all
me.
for watching. I meant to do a lot more asking you to subscribe and like the videos throughout the course of this. So, um, dang, I can't edit, so I can't go back and add those in after
Right.
the fact.
Yeah.
So next
If you
time,
made it this far, though, then you
yeah,
definitely want to like this video and subscribe.
yes.
That's what I would say.
And please do, if you have questions of your own, drop them in the comments here. If you've added them to the Trailblazer community, go ahead and link them in the comments. That way I can
Yeah.
pull them up, and we will be happy to answer them in a future session. Until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And once again, Matt, thank you for walking us through these. Bye,
Thanks for having
everybody.
me. Bye.